Night Arts Festival 2012. I'd like to welcome you today as we listen on some of the groups. We're going to hear two recorder groups, the Grade 5 Recorder Club as well, and the Grade 5 drummers this morning. So first up, I'd like to introduce to you the Grade 4 classes. They're going to perform two pieces. They're going to perform for you today Hush Little Baby and Ode to Joy. And I'd also like to welcome Wayne Workman, who is here to adjudicate for us this year. He's actually very familiar with the area. Some of you may or may not recognize him as a former band teacher at Scott Bateman. So we welcome him today.
Performing is always a difficult thing, isn't it? Do you do much of this kind of thing? Performing for audiences? Once in a while. It's not very often, is it? And it takes a long time before you get comfortable in front of playing for people. First of all, before I go on to any further, I want to say it's really good to see so many of you involved in a musical ensemble. It's a really, really fun thing to do, and it's a really exciting thing to do to make music with your friends, isn't it? You enjoy it? I can tell you enjoy it, right just by the way you played. It's a little nerve-wracking. It's a little bit you know, you get in front of all these faces and everything, and you get up there, and at the beginning, in the very first piece that you played, I kind of felt like you were a little bit on edge, you know. It was like, oh, here we are, we're playing for all these people. But you have to try to make it look like you're not. There's a little bit of acting involved in performing. And in your music room where you play, where you practice, you know, you can just relax and have fun with your teacher and play this music and not even worry about what other people are thinking about your playing. But then you get in front of people, and it changes things. It really changes. It really feels different, doesn't it? So it's a hard thing to get used to, but I think one of the ways that you can sort of forget about the fact that you're performing for these people is just concentrate on the music that you're playing. And when you play music, your goal is always not to play it perfectly and anything like that, but your goal is always to make a connection with your audience through the music. You're telling them a little story with your music. And so when you're doing that, especially with recorders, you've got nothing in front of you, you've got no music stand or anything, it would be great if you would just look up a little bit. If you would all kind of look at your audience and almost with your eyes invite them to listen to you. Okay? You're smiling. Have you told them that?
Yes.
Of course you told them. So that's a big thing. Your music is great. I love the way you played it. Two very nice pieces, the Hush Little Baby, sort of a quiet lullaby, and then the Ode to Joy, which is a real celebration, a real joy. And you played them both with the style that was appropriate, the style that they're made to be played in. The Hush Little Baby, one criticism I would have of that in your playing is try to connect the notes a little bit more, just a little smoother, because it is a lullaby. You don't want to make the baby wake up by playing anything too harsh, you know, so you can make the notes really nice and smooth. And in the ode to, and maybe a little bit quieter, which is hard to do with so many recorders. But I play the trumpet. That's my trumpet sitting there. And the trumpet's a very loud instrument, but it can also be played softly, and so can these instruments. So just try to play a little bit softer, and that'll get that baby falling asleep in no time. And then the Ode to Joy, again, I think the same kind of thing, maybe just a little more what we call legato style, because it's instead of tone, 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 it's more do, 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 do. Okay, just a slightly different style, way of thinking of it. And if you listen to recordings of choirs singing it, they're really connecting the notes. So, beautiful job this morning. Really, really enjoyed it. And keep playing, keep doing music, because it's a wonderful thing. Thank you. check it. Didn't know. All right, so as you can see, I'm a trumpet player. I'm not a recorder player, so I'm going to demonstrate a couple things on the trumpet that I think would be helpful for you. First of all, thank you all so much for being here this morning and for playing for us. It is always a gift. Music is always a gift, and it's always something that's a real privilege to be a part of. Do you know what the word privilege means? It's not something that, yes, sorry, go ahead. I know, it's hard to explain, isn't it?
It's not something that you can ask for?
Yeah, okay. Right. It's not something that is just sort of given to you. It's something very valuable. It's something really, that is, it's not something that just comes to you naturally. It's something that's like a gift. So it's a privilege to hear you play this morning. It's a privilege for us to hear you, and it's a privilege for you to be able to play for us. Did you know that? Okay, so you're actually giving something to the audience, and we really appreciate that. And it's really nice also, I have to say, to see people come out, because I do a lot of these festivals, and we don't always get audiences like this. So it's really nice to see parents and relatives and everybody coming out to watch the performance this morning. And again, it's really nice to see so many people. This is how many classes?
4 classes.
4 classes combined, so it's really great that you're all here. Just one thing to comment on tonight, and I do this every time a group comes out, watching the group come into the performance area. This is your performance area. And your performance actually begins, I don't know if you know this or not, but it begins as soon as you come into the performance area. All of a sudden, you're in front of everybody, and they're watching every little thing that you do. And when I was saying to the first group, when we perform music, it's a little bit like acting. We're actually trying to convince the audience that this is something, we're trying to tell a story, and we're trying to get the audience to sort of be part of that story. So as soon as you get out here in front of the audience, you have to have sort of a way about you that tells you that, okay, I'm going to make some music for you today, and it's going to be wonderful. So any little talking, or I know you're kind of nervous and you're young and you're new at this, but any talking or shuffling and that kind of stuff, it kind of sets the audience, they're not really at ease, and you want to make them feel comfortable. So when you come out, look like you're coming out to perform. Here I am, got my recorder in my hand, and I'm just going to stand here quietly. I'm going to watch the audience and wait for your conductor to start them off. Okay? So that's a really important part of performing. It's kind of like athletes. When an athlete gets out onto I hate making comparisons to sports and music, but between sports and music, but sometimes when we are doing sports, as soon as we get out on the field or we get out on the ice, you have to be ready to go, right? And it's the same thing with music. You have to be ready to go, and you have to be in the zone, they call it. Just be thinking about what you're going to be playing, and only about what you're going to be playing, which is sometimes pretty hard to do when there's a lot of other things going on in your life. But it's really important. Okay, the music that you played was very well done. It sounded like most of you have it down really well, but honestly, I was watching fingers, and I didn't see all the fingers moving at the same time and on the same notes. So some of you need to do a little bit more work on practicing the fingerings and making sure that you know all the notes. I think there was enough people that were playing the right notes that it had a good effect, though, so you sounded quite good. Quite enthusiastic. I'd like to see you, again, talking about getting into the zone, I'd like to see you all show that you're really involved in this music. And it kind of looked at times like you weren't, because some of you were playing like this. You're looking down, and that doesn't really make us think that you're really telling us a story as the audience. So look up. Just a little thing, but it makes a big difference. There's a few technical little things, but one of the things that I was going to say was, in our music, we've got music that's written here that your director has, and he's taught the music to you, but there's nothing in here about expression. There's not even a forte or mezzo forte, and you can add some of that stuff. So I'm kind of talking to your director about this. So when you play a you kind of played it like this. to play music, put a little more expression into it when you play it, instead of just playing it all like one volume, one level. Okay? What you did was great. Just add to it and keep up the good work. Okay? Thanks.
5 Recorder Club, and they're going to play 2 pieces for you today. First piece is Scarborough Affair, followed by Chopsticks. Go.
They deserve, well, all the groups deserve applause, but a group that meets out of the regular
Yes.
class time, I think deserves even more applause because they're putting more time and effort into what they're doing, and it's over and above, right? So really, really good of you to come out and do the extra time and practice. Obviously, you enjoy it. That's the important thing, is that you enjoy it. Okay? It's not so much what I say or anything. It's, are you enjoying playing music? I always think that when we learn how to play something on a musical instrument or we're singing or something, it's a lifelong thing. It's something that we keep for the rest of our lives. So it's a really great thing to be involved with. The the recorder is not an instrument that I work with a lot, I have to admit. But I do work with wind instruments. Trumpet being my instrument, I teach. I taught flutes and clarinets and all kinds of other instruments. And it's a little bit different from the recorder because with the recorder, it doesn't take much air, does it? But if you put too much air, what happens? It goes up and it gives you what's called overtones. It gives you another note. And so you have to be very, very careful not to let the air flow too fast. And that happened a couple times, didn't it? There were a couple times. And those are things that you work on, things that you be mindful of. But I think a really important part of that is to make sure that you always take a really deep breath when you play. Yes? Am I right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because I think if you just start playing and you just can take a little breath like this, you haven't got much air stored in here to play for very long. The nice thing about this instrument, though, is if you take a really big breath, you can play for quite a long time without taking another breath. So that means you don't have that. You can play longer phrases, more notes at a time, and not chop it up. So in Scarborough Fair, if you were to play da 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 you can really take that phrase and you can make a one long musical statement. Still with me? Yeah. Okay. One long musical statement that has like sort of a rise to the middle and then a fall towards the end. And this is sort of the next step for you folks. You already play very well. But one more thing that I think you can start doing now, start shaping those phrases and making more of a musical statement with them. So I'll just play what I'm talking about. Okay, so it's all one long line instead of. Where it sounds kind of chopped up. And one way to get at that, one way to think about that is to think about the words. If you think about the words, are you going to Scarborough? Then you would go. You wouldn't say, are you going to Scarborough? Right. So that sounds silly, doesn't it? But I'm exaggerating that. And you didn't do that. It wasn't like that. But try to make longer phrases and to do that, take bigger breaths. That's my main message to you. Okay? I enjoyed both of your pieces. You're playing very well. And thank you very, very much for putting in the extra time and playing for us this morning. Okay?